You live in a really special neighborhood, dude.
Alabama.
Yeah, apparently.
It
Um,
it's like nowhere else in the whole world. We have we have a pig and a turkey that live together.
you do?
No, one of my neighbors.
Okay.
He's a famous musician, not Serge. Uh, and I guess I can say who he is. He's, you know, I'm sexy and I know it. Mm, 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 mm.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he's got a turkey and a pig,
That's
and
pretty cool.
the whole neighborhood goes to see them every day, and they live together in harmony. These two, and people feed them bananas.
I have a neighbor who has a pair of tortoises,
Yeah,
Reggie and Wallace,
we got a lot of tortoises in the neighborhood, and they
and
get out.
they live in the front yard. And
Do they escape?
no, they have escaped, I think, but that was before we moved in.
There's always a loose tortoise in our neighborhood. Somebody's like, there's a giant tortoise, and some of them are gigantic.
Huge. Yeah, they're like boulders walking around. Like, what are you doing?
When I was in Adelaide, Australia, doing a show, after the show, this guy came up to me. He's like, "Where do you, oh?" Uh, he goes, "Oh," I asked him. I said, "Where are you? Where do you work?" And he's like, "LA." I said, "What fire department?" He told me the number, and I'm like, "That's my neighborhood." And he's like, "Shut up!" And I'm like, "How weird is that you run, you work at the fire station in my neighborhood?" He goes, as soon as I said, he goes, "Dude, you have a lot of snakes in your neighborhood." And I go, "Yeah, I know." He goes, like
He goes, "Did you go to the snake charmer guy?"
he goes, "There's always like one big fire." He goes, "But all we do all day long is we get calls to go pick up rattlesnakes." And I go, "Yeah." And then he goes, "We got a python once." And I go,
What?
"There's not pythons in my neighborhood." He goes, "There was." And I'm like, "Shut the fuck up." He goes, "We had to come take out like a 10-foot python." And I'm like, "Where?" And he goes, "Behind somebody's house." And I'm like, "Somebody let that out of their house."
Yeah,
And
that's a pet. That was a former pet.
we just had a kid attacked by a mountain lion about 3 weeks ago.
What does that mean? Kid attacked by what?
Some
Are they okay? What
four,
happened?
4-year-old kid was playing in his backyard a half a mile from my house, and mountain lion. I don't know if it jumped the fence or what it did, but it was an adolescent mountain lion. I think it was about a year old, but they're still huge.
Yeah, they're big.
And it started attacking the kid, and the mother of the kid came out and just started punching the mountain lion.
Hell yes.
Beat the mountain lion off the kid. The kid had a huge scar here, a big scratch on the face, uh, and the kid's gonna be okay. I mean, other than it's gonna have the greatest story to tell girls in a bar. Oh, you see
And
that? I fought a mountain lion.
hyper traumatic experience as a child.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope that he'll get over that and won't like that. It won't affect him. I think it will probably somewhere, but he's alive, thank God. And it's scary because like they can be at middle of the daytime. I've seen one. There's a tree right beside me. I saw one way up in the tree one day. I was like, I go to Lauren, I go, "Come here, look, is that?" And she's like, "Oh my God." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Because at first you look at them and you're like, that just looks like a kind of a big cat. Like that's a really big house cat. Why did it get there? And you're like, no, that cat weighs 90 pounds. That's a giant cat.
not
That doesn't sound right.
90, if I'm correct. I think they're up to like 200 and
Are they
something.
really?
Oh, they're huge.
Wow.
I mean,
Maybe the one that's so
they're
small.
like twice the size of a coyote. And coyote, yeah,
Yeah.
I think they get up to like 200. Anyway, so my neighbor next door is like, I saw it in this tree. She goes, "Oh yeah, I see the paw prints on the top of my car all the time." And the
Oh,
roof right here. And I was like, "Oh." So you think about it, it's like there's oftentimes my daughter's 6, my kids 2. There's oftentimes they're outside playing around alone. And now it's like I got to think about that. I got to think about punching a mountain lion.
at what point does So like I feel like, you know, there's an escalating number of and frequency of, and even like, you know, how aggressive it is of things to worry about, like things that are just on your mind about the kids all the time.
Mhm.
Does that ever hit a peak and then like valley out a little bit, or maybe even just plateau? Because like, you know, my son's only 2.5 months, he's not even 3 months, and I have a lot of, I'm not going to say anxiety, but I have a lot of concerns about things that I need to be responsible for. And especially as he starts, like, you know, he's still in the phase where I could leave him somewhere and be like, you'll be there when I get back, because you physically cannot
Yeah,
move.
once they start moving, it's scary. Yeah, that's a good question because I think I think it changes often. There are times where I'm a helicopter parent, where I'm just all over my, and then there are times when people are like, "Do you know where your son is?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's over by that helicopter." You know, like like I and I'm like, "I'm a helicopter parent." I I've seen him in like really dangerous situations that I'm like, "Ah, that was really bad." But but then there are times when I'm like, "Am I being too precautious?" And I see like friends who are like, you got to just let them learn, you know, and they're like, and definitely less cautious with the second one.
Hmm.
But like, I'm going to use a COVID analogy, like I have a buddy, we both know him, Hunter McIntyre, who has traveled all over the world unvaccinated and doesn't wear a mask and uh, does the most disgusting things and has not gotten COVID. I have a buddy, Kevin from Kevin and Bean, who wore a mask, didn't leave his house, and got COVID twice.
The universe is a bitch, dude.
Yeah. So at a certain point, I do feel like when your numbers up, your numbers up. Like there was a guy in 9/11 who was working at like Cantor Fitzgerald or something or Windows on the World and called in sick that day and didn't go to work. And then when that plane crash happened a week after 9/11, he was in that plane going on it like to Jamaica or wherever it was going.
Jeez.
And it's like I feel like that. Like you can like watch the shit out of your kid and then they end up with cancer or something. Or you can it is kind of like, but because I know these parents that like don't fucking pay any attention and their kids live long, healthy lives. And then there's,
Yeah.
so there's a balance, I think. I mean, you just don't do stupid shit.
But you've always kind of been a hypochondriac, right? It's like you always have functioned with like this like pretty high level of base anxiety around your health and well-being and the things that are happening around you. How are you even able to like turn that corner to let go of the outcomes when it comes to your kids? Because I feel like, wouldn't it make more sense that it got amplified?
Yeah, yeah. Like there's been like I'll never forget when I had a cold when Izzy was born and I didn't want to come home. I was so afraid of giving my cold to my daughter. I was like, oh my God, if my daughter gets sick and she's a baby, I can't handle her being sick. I can't see. And now, I've seen the kids have cold and the kids don't give a fuck. When they get a cold, like they shouldn't call people babies. They should call people adults.
That's another one. You gotta write this down. You're killing it with the material today.
My kid will have, I just made that up too. My kid will be sick and will be like running around, like phlegm coming out of their face. And they're just like, I want to go again, Dad. Let's go again. And you're like, no, you should lie in bed. And they're
You're like,
like,
you're
oh.
so pale. You're
Yeah.
vomiting everywhere. What is going on?
But still, every time you hear them cough, it sends like a shiver down your spine. You're just like, oh my God, it hurts you to hear your child. You never want to see your child. There's a certain amount of pain that you kind of enjoy. Like when you're like, stop it, stop it, stop it, and they pull it off the shelf and it hits them in your face, and you're like, ha ha, like
Like learn the lesson.
Yeah, learning lesson, pain you enjoy.
Yeah.
My kid was like sprinting away from me yesterday and just did a full scorpion, like faced like over the back. And at first I laughed and I was like, because he's usually pretty tough and he just gets right back up and like doesn't. And I heard the and I went, he's so tough that I was like, oh, little guy. And I just ran to him because I knew you start to know
which one's like a serious thing and which one's
when shut up, come on, you're tougher than that. And also like give them a hug. I always tell my wife, because she's like, you can't be, they're little kid, and I'm like, I know when they deserve a hug. I know when they deserve to go shut up and keep going, you're tougher than this.